You didn't find this video by accident. Something within you called this moment into being. Because there is a truth you've already felt, even if you haven't named it yet, you can't create a new year with the same identity. And if I told you that all your January goals, all your transformation plans, all your dreams of change are doomed to fail, if one thing doesn't change first, it's not about what you want to do differently. It's about who you need to become so that change is even possible. Science has already proven this. Neuroscience has mapped it. The greatest manifestation teachers have described it. But most people still don't really understand, because it's easier to write a list of goals than to question who you are. It's more comfortable to plan the future than to transform the present. It feels safer to try to change from the outside in than from the inside out.
But here's what actually happens. January passes. February arrives. March comes closer. And nothing has really changed. Why? Because the identity stayed the same. And identity is what creates reality. Always. Without exception. In the next few minutes, you're going to understand exactly why this happens. You'll discover how your brain protects old patterns even when you genuinely want to change. And you'll learn practical techniques inspired by Neville Goddard, Bob Proctor, Napoleon Hill, Bruce Lipton, and Louise Hay to create a new identity that manifests real results. This is not a video about motivation. This is a video about transformation. And transformation begins with one question that can change everything. Who do you need to be in order to have what you desire?
Let me ask you a question that might feel uncomfortable. How many times have you promised yourself that this year will be different? How many times have you written goals, created plans, set intentions, and then, a few months later, realized you're in almost the exact same place? And here is what's even more revealing. You knew what to do. You had the information. You knew the techniques. You even started. But something kept pulling you back. Something kept making you stop. Something kept you stuck in the same patterns. And then you blamed yourself. You thought, I don't have enough discipline. I don't have enough willpower. I'm just not capable. But that isn't true. The problem isn't that there's something wrong with you. The problem is that you're trying to change reality without changing the identity that creates that reality.
Let me give you an example you'll probably recognize immediately. You decide that this is the year you'll finally save money. You make a budget. You cut expenses. You start putting money aside. But after a few weeks, something happens. You find yourself spending on something you didn't plan. You justify it. You say, just this once. And before you realize it, you're back in the old pattern. Why? Because your identity is still, I'm someone who can't save. I'm someone who always spends more than I earn. I'm someone who doesn't have control over money. And as long as that identity exists, your actions will always return to it. Always. Or another example. You decide that this year, you'll finally exercise regularly. You join a gym. You buy workout clothes. You even go a few times. But then something happens. You miss one day, then another, then a whole week, and before you know it, you stopped going completely. Why? Because your identity is still, I'm not an active person. I don't like exercise. I don't have time for that. And as long as that identity exists, your actions will always return to it.
Bob Proctor understood this perfectly. He used to say, you can't have a different result doing the same thing. But what he really meant was, you can't have a different result being the same person. Your results are always a reflection of your identity. Always. And here is what's even deeper. Your identity is not something you consciously chose. Your identity is a set of deep beliefs formed in childhood, stored in your subconscious, and operating about 95% of the time without you noticing. Dr. Bruce Lipton discovered something revolutionary. Your cells don't respond to your genes, they respond to your beliefs, and your beliefs are what form your identity. So if you believe you're someone who can't save money, your cells, your brain, your behavior, all of it will operate from that belief. This is why change feels so hard. Not because you're weak, not because you lack willpower, but because you're trying to change behaviors without changing the beliefs that generate those behaviors. And beliefs are like computer programs. They run automatically, without you needing to think about them.
Napoleon Hill, author of Think and Grow Rich, spent 20 years studying highly successful people. And he discovered that they all had one thing in common. They didn't just think differently, they were different. They had an identity of success. They saw themselves as successful long before the world recognized them that way. And that's exactly what you need to do. You need to become the person who already has what you want, not someday in the future. Now, because when you change your identity, your actions change automatically. When you change your beliefs, your results change automatically. When you change who you are being, your reality changes automatically. But here's the real question. How do you change an identity that has been forming for decades? How do you reprogram beliefs that are deeply rooted? How do you become someone new when you've spent your whole life being someone old? That's exactly what we're going to answer. Because there are techniques, practical, grounded, scientifically informed techniques that work. And you're going to learn them in the next few minutes.
Let's start by understanding how your mind really works. Because when you understand the mechanism, you gain power over it. Your mind has two main parts, the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. The conscious mind is the part you use to think, plan, and make decisions. It represents only about 5% of your mental activity. The subconscious mind, which represents the other 95%, is where your beliefs, patterns, and identity are stored. And here's the core problem. Your conscious mind can want to change. It can set goals, make plans, and decide things. But if your subconscious mind still believes in the old identity, it will sabotage everything. It will find ways to pull you back into old patterns. It will protect the identity it knows, even if that identity is limiting you.
It's as if your subconscious were a very efficient security system. It has been programmed to keep you safe by keeping you in what feels familiar. And what feels familiar is your current identity. So every time you try to change, it sounds the alarm. It creates resistance. It triggers fear. It generates thoughts like, "This won't work. You can't do this. You're not that kind of person." Dr. Joe Dispenza explains this through neuroplasticity. Your brain is like a forest with well-worn paths. Those old paths are your usual thoughts, habits, and identity. And your brain prefers to use those paths because they're easy, familiar, and safe. But when you start thinking new thoughts, feeling new feelings, and taking new actions, you're creating new paths in that forest. At first, these new paths are uncomfortable. They require effort. They feel unnatural. But if you persist, if you keep walking those new paths, they become easier. They become more natural. And eventually they become the main paths. When that happens, your identity has shifted.
Neville Goddard understood this at a deeply spiritual level. He said that imagination creates reality, but what he was really describing is the scientific process of neuroplasticity. When you imagine something with enough clarity and emotion, your brain doesn't distinguish it from a real experience. The same neural pathways fire, the same chemicals get released, the same programming occurs. So if you can imagine yourself as the person who already has what you desire, with enough clarity and feeling, your brain begins to operate as if that reality were already true. And when your brain operates as if something is real, your actions change, your decisions change, your reality changes. But here is what's crucial. You can't just think about it, you have to feel it, because your subconscious mind doesn't understand words. It understands feelings. It understands vibration. It understands energy.
Louise Hay, author of You Can Heal Your Life, discovered this through her own healing journey. She realized that her beliefs about herself were creating her reality. And when she began changing those beliefs, not just in thought, but in feeling, her reality began to change as well. Bob Proctor called this vibration. He taught that everything in the universe is energy vibrating at different frequencies. Your thoughts are vibrations. Your emotions are vibrations. And like attracts like. When you match the frequency of what you desire, you don't have to chase it. It comes to you. So how do you change your vibration? How do you change your identity? How do you become someone new? The answer lies in 3 fundamental steps. First, you must identify your current identity. Second, you must define your desired identity. Third, you must assume that new identity through specific, consistent practices.
But before we go into the techniques, you need to understand something deeply. Your identity is not fixed. It's not permanent. It's not unchangeable. Your identity is a set of beliefs, and beliefs can be changed, always, without exception. Dr. Bruce Lipton proved this through his research in epigenetics. He discovered that your genes do not control your biology, your beliefs do. Your cells respond to your perception of reality, not simply to your genetic code. So if you believe you are abundant, your cells behave from abundance. If you believe you are healthy, your cells behave from health. If you believe you are capable, your cells behave from capability. That means you are not limited by your genes. You are limited only by your beliefs, and beliefs can be changed. In as little as 21 days of consistent practice, your brain can form new neural pathways. In about 21 days, you can begin to stabilize a new identity.
Maxwell Maltz, a plastic surgeon in the 1950s, discovered something fascinating. When he performed surgeries that changed a person's appearance, it took around 21 days for the patient to stop seeing their old face in the mirror and start recognizing the new one. But here's what's even more profound. It also took about 21 days for the person's personality to shift to match that new appearance. Maltz realized it wasn't just about physical change. It was about identity change. And 21 days became the foundation of what we now know as the habit formation cycle. But it's more than that. It's the identity formation cycle. This is why changing at the beginning of a new year feels so hard. You try to change everything at once. You try to create a new identity in a single day. But identity doesn't work like that. Identity is formed through consistent repetition, through daily practice, through small changes that accumulate over time. The good news is, you don't have to wait 21 days to start seeing shifts. Some people notice changes in the first week, some in the first few days. Because once you begin to change your identity, once you shift your vibration, once you align with your goals and consciousness, the outer world has no choice but to start reflecting that alignment. It's a law, not a suggestion, a law. And laws don't care about your past. They don't care about your circumstances. They don't care about what you think is realistic. They respond to your vibration. They respond to your identity. They respond to your assumption. So assume that your goals are already complete. Feel them as real. Become the person who has them. And watch as reality rearranges itself to match your assumption.
Now let's move into the practical part. Understanding is important, but application is what transforms. This is where change becomes real. I'm going to walk you through specific techniques based on the teachings of the greatest manifestation mentors. Each technique has a purpose, each has a method, and each works when applied consistently. Let's begin with the first technique, which is the foundation for everything that follows. Technique 1. Identifying your current identity. Before you create a new identity, you must recognize the one you're living from now. You can't change what you refuse to see. Here's how to do it. Take a notebook. At the top of the page, write, "Who am I in relation to?" For example, if your goal is financial abundance, ask, "Who am I in relation to money?" Then write with brutal honesty. Your subconscious already knows these answers. You're just bringing them into the light. You might write things like, "I'm someone who always struggles with money. I'm someone who never has enough. I'm someone who doesn't deserve abundance." It may feel uncomfortable, but it's necessary. You can't transform what you don't acknowledge. When you write these beliefs down, you bring them into consciousness, and what comes into consciousness can be changed. Common mistake. People skip this step because it feels painful. But skipping this is like trying to build a new house without tearing down the old structure. You must clear the ground before you can build something new. Technique 2. Defining your desired identity. Now we define who you need to be. This is the powerful part. You're creating a new identity based not on your past but on your future. Drawing on Neville Goddard, you're going to use what he called assumption. You will assume the identity of the person who already has what you desire. Now, not later. On that same page, write, "Who am I now in relation to?" and write in first person, present tense, as if it were already true. For example, I am someone who attracts money easily. I am someone who always has more than enough. I am someone who deserves abundance. Don't write, "I want to be can" or "I will be." Write, "I am," because your subconscious doesn't understand the future. It only understands now. And here is the crucial part. You must feel it, not just think it. Feel it. Feelings are the language of the subconscious. So when you write, "I am someone who attracts prosperity easily," you must feel the emotion of already being that person. Feel the relief, feel the gratitude, feel the safety, feel the expansion. Common mistake. People write a new identity but don't embody its feeling. They just think about it. But thought without feeling doesn't create deep change. It's the union of thought and feeling that reprograms the subconscious.
Technique 3. Imaginal acts. Neville Goddard. This is one of Neville Goddard's most powerful techniques. Imaginal acts. You create a scene in imagination that implies your desire is already fulfilled. Here's how to do it step by step. Every morning, before you do anything else, find a quiet space. Sit comfortably. Close your eyes. Take 3 deep, slow breaths. Then imagine a specific scene. Not vague, not general, but precise. A scene that can only be true if your goal is already realized and your new identity is active. If your new identity is, "I am someone who attracts prosperity easily," imagine something concrete. Maybe you're opening your bank app and seeing the exact balance you wanted. Maybe you're receiving an email confirming a payment. Maybe you're in a conversation where someone is thanking you for work that brought in that income. The exact scene matters less than the feeling. As you imagine it, feel the emotion of it being real. Feel the safety. Feel the freedom. Feel the relief. Feel deep gratitude. Make it so vivid that if someone walked into the room, they'd see the peace in your posture, the gentle smile, the soft confidence of someone who has already received what they wanted. Neville taught that you should do this in what he called the state akin to sleep, that drowsy space between waking and sleeping, because that's when the conscious mind relaxes and the subconscious becomes receptive. Do this for about 5 minutes every morning. Consistency is everything. New neural pathways are formed through repetition. New beliefs are installed through repetition. A new identity is born through repetition. Common mistake. People do this once or twice and expect big results. But identity change requires consistency. Do this daily for at least 21 days so that your brain begins to operate from the new identity. Technique 4. Revision. Neville Goddard. Revision is another powerful tool that many overlook. It's about re-editing your day so your subconscious receives a new version of reality. Here's how. Every night, before you fall asleep, mentally review your day. If something happened that doesn't align with your new identity, maybe you reacted from fear, maybe someone said something that hurt you, maybe you made a choice the old you would make. Replay that scene in your imagination. But this time, the way you wish it had happened. If someone criticized you, imagine them encouraging you instead. If you backed away from an opportunity, imagine yourself stepping in with confidence. Feel the revised version as if it truly happened. This isn't denial, it's reprogramming. Your subconscious doesn't distinguish between what actually occurred and what you vividly imagine. It only takes in what you repeatedly present to it. When you consistently present a reality that aligns with your goals, your subconscious starts to accept that as how life works for you. Dr. Bruce Lipton showed that your cells respond to your beliefs, not your genes, and your beliefs are heavily shaped by your memories. If you can change the emotional imprint of those memories through revision, you can change your beliefs. Change your beliefs. You change your biology. Change your biology. You change your reality. Common mistake. People think revision is pretending something didn't happen. It isn't. It's choosing which version your subconscious will store as the template for your future.
Technique 5. Affirmations with Feeling. Louise Hay. Louise Hay transformed the way we use affirmations by adding the missing ingredient, emotion. Affirmations work only when they're infused with feeling. Words without emotion are noise. Words with emotion are programming. Here's how to do it. Choose an affirmation that matches your new identity. For example, I am someone who attracts prosperity easily and naturally. Don't just repeat it mechanically. Close your eyes for a moment and feel it. Feel what it would be like if this were undeniably true. Feel the ease, feel the joy, feel the gratitude. Do this in front of a mirror whenever possible. Look into your own eyes. Speak the affirmations slowly, clearly, with conviction. Not as a wish, but as a decision, as a fact. Do this every morning and every night. And throughout the day, whenever you notice the old identity appearing, through thoughts like, I can't, I never, I'm not that kind of person, pause. Breathe. Repeat your affirmation with feeling. Feel the new identity for a few moments, then act from that state. Common mistake. People repeat affirmations mindlessly, without emotion. That doesn't reprogram anything. Your subconscious hears emotion, not empty words. Technique 6. Identity Anchoring. Bob Proctor. Bob Proctor taught the principle of be, do, have. Most people live do, have, be. They think, if I do enough, I'll have what I want, and then I'll finally be happy or confident. But the law works in reverse. First you be, then you naturally do, and then you have. Identity anchoring is about bringing your new being state into ordinary moments of your day. Here's how: several times a day in random moments, standing in line, driving, walking, showering, ask yourself, how would the version of me who already has my goal feel right now? Don't answer with thoughts. Answer with emotion. Would they feel calm, grateful, grounded, powerful, loved? Then, for a minute or two, choose to feel that feeling now. Not later, not when it happens, now. Because when you feel the emotion of your fulfilled desire in the present, you're matching its frequency. And when you match its frequency, you draw it into your experience. Do this many times throughout the day. Each time you're strengthening the neural pathways of your new identity. You're teaching your nervous system that this new state is your normal. Common mistake. People try this once a day and call it done. Identity anchoring is most powerful when it becomes a habit. Quick emotional check-ins that gradually reset your baseline.
Technique 7. Identity Aligned Action. This final technique is what closes the loop. Identity without action is fantasy. Identity with action becomes manifestation. Here's what you do. Every day, ask yourself, what would the version of me who already has this result do today? Not in general. Today. Now. Then choose one concrete action that version of you would take, and do it. Not from pressure, not from lack, from identity. When you act from your new identity, you're sending a powerful message to your subconscious. This is who I am now. And when your subconscious believes that, it begins to create circumstances that validate that identity. Common mistake. Forcing actions that don't match your inner state yet. That creates resistance. Far better to keep nurturing the new identity and let action arise as a natural extension of who you are becoming.
Now that you know the techniques, let's talk about bringing them into your actual daily life. Because information without integration doesn't transform anyone. First, accept that identity change is a process, not an instant event. It happens through consistent practice, so be patient with yourself but also committed. Second, expect resistance. Your old mind will try to pull you back. It will create doubt. It will generate fear. It will whisper thoughts like, this isn't working. You're wasting time, you'll never change. When that happens, don't fight yourself. Simply notice it, take a breath, and gently return to your new identity. Repeat your affirmation with feeling, or revisit your imaginal scene for a moment, then move on. Third, start small. You don't need to overhaul your entire life this week. Choose one area, one identity you want to transform. Focus your techniques there. Focus creates power. power creates results.
Fourth, create a simple morning ritual. Before the day pulls you into old patterns, spend a few minutes as your new self. Do your imaginal act. Feel your new identity. Speak your affirmations with emotion. Then ask, what would the version of me who already has this do today? And choose at least one aligned action. Fifth, close your day with revision. Before you sleep, mentally adjust what didn't match your new identity. Feel the edited version as if it really happened. Drift off knowing you're giving your subconscious a new script. Sixth, prioritize consistency over perfection. You don't need to do everything perfectly. You just need to show up often enough that the new identity becomes more familiar than the old one. New neural pathways form through repetition, not perfection. Finally, trust the process. Transformation always happens in the invisible before it shows up in the visible. Just because you don't see instant external results doesn't mean nothing is happening. The most important work is occurring inside, at the level of your subconscious, your nervous system, your identity. When that changes, the outer world must follow. It has no choice. That's how the law works.
We've reached the end of this journey together, but in truth we're standing at the beginning. Because what you've learned here isn't just a method, it's a way of being, a way of living, a way of creating. You are not becoming someone entirely new. You're remembering who you've always been beneath the conditioning. You're not making a new reality from nothing. You're aligning with the reality that already exists in consciousness. You are not becoming, you are being. And that being, that identity, that vibration, that assumption, is what creates everything.
Before we close, I want you to know, all the core content is in this video. You have the concepts. You have the techniques. You have everything you need to begin your transformation right now. And if you'd like to go deeper, organize your practice, and make it easier to follow day by day, we've gathered all these techniques into a practical ebook. It's a guide you can return to every day, with specific exercises, real examples, and a step-by-step method to embody your new identity. The ebook and the books from the mentors we mentioned are linked in the comments for a symbolic value that helps support this channel and keep this work alive. We thank you in advance for supporting this conscious project. But remember, you don't need the ebook to begin. You can start now with what you already have.
Because transformation doesn't wait for perfect conditions. It begins the moment you decide it begins, and you've already decided. You're here, you're listening, you're ready. So go now. Practice, persist, become, create, manifest, be. The universe is waiting for you to match the frequency of what you say you want, and you are about to show it exactly who you are. You're about to show yourself exactly who you are. And that person, that identity, that being, that creator, is about to shape a new year from a new self. Not because you're lucky, not because you're special, but because you understand the law, because you're applying the science, because you're embodying the truth. Consciousness creates reality. Identity determines experience. Assumption becomes fact. You are the creator. You are the manifester. You are the one who decides. So, decide. Now. Today. In this moment. And watch as your reality rearranges itself to match your decision. You can't create a new year with the same identity, but you can create a new identity that gives birth to a completely different year. And that creation begins now, with you, with this decision, with this moment. Let's begin. Are you ready? You are ready. So let's go.